Israel, oameni și fapte. O emisiune alfa-omega născută din dorința de a vorbi de bine poporul Domnului din Israel. Aceste înregistrări, realizate de alfa-omega în Israel, aduc în fața dumneavoastră locuitori sau misionari din Israelul zilelor noastre, cu mărturiile lor, cu poveștile lor de viață. Oameni care trăiesc într-o țară cum nu este alta pe pământ, țara aleasă de Dumnezeu pentru poporul său, Israel.
Suntem la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Israel, oameni și fapte. Și în ediția de astăzi vrem să vă aducem înaintea dumneavoastră pe un om deosebit pe care l-am întâlnit aici, în Israel, în Ierusalim. Avi Lipkin este numele lui, este evreu cu origine evreiești, dar născut locuitor al acestor ținuturi de mult timp. Este un om care are credință puternică conform tradițiilor ebraice, dar este foarte deschis pentru comunitatea evanghelică. Este o persoană care a vorbit în multe locuri, în comunități evanghelice, prezentând Scriptura dintr-o perspectivă interesantă a unuia care cunoaște foarte bine Vechiul Testament. Nu este o persoană religioasă neapărat, este un om care a încercat să facă ceva mai mult pentru națiunea lui, inițiind o grupare, Bible Block se numește blocul biblic, o grupare chiar politică care se vrea să pună împreună aici în Israel oamenii cărții, cum spune el, adică evrei și creștini împreună. Este unul dintre evrei care recunoaște că împreună cu creștinii, evrei vor putea avea biruință și pot să avanseze pentru că au același Dumnezeu la care se închină, și evrei și creștinii. Are încă rezerve în a recunoaște pe Iisus Hristos ca Mesia în mod public, dar Domnul lucrează la inima lui într-un mod interesant. Haideți să urmărim acest interviu cu Avi Lipkin.
You remember Bethlehem? Isn't Bethlehem an important place for Christians?
Of course. It's the birth of Christianity, in fact.
It's the heart.
Heart, yeah.
And in November, December of 1990, I heard about, we're here at Christ Church in East Jerusalem. Right next door is the Franciscan church, and the Franciscan magazine, Terra Santa, came out with an article written by a Catholic priest, Father George Abu Hazan, and he said that the real reason for the Christians to flee Bethlehem is not the Jews. The Christians are fleeing Bethlehem because of Hamas and because of the Muslims. Wherever Islam goes, it's the end of Christianity. And I tried to buy the magazine. It was very hard. And finally, I went to the offices and I told them a lie, which was the truth. I said to them I was studying to be a rabbi and I'm doing research with the Catholic journals, and can they sell me all of their journals for 1990? I only wanted one, and I bought the 6. And then when I saw the article, I ran. I think it was Amargo Esodo de Cristiani de Terra Santa. I ran from the old city to the bus station, took the bus to Tel Aviv to the army spokesman. They translated this from Italian to Hebrew, and then I translated this into English, and I put it in my book. Today, Bethlehem is 10 to 15% Christian. The Christians are finished. Nazareth is about 35% Christian and 65% Muslim. Nazareth.
And what about Iraq?
Iraq also, Syria also. It's very hard to be a Christian in these countries. Egypt also, but the Coptic Christians in Egypt, they're fighting. They're not going to give up.
People in the secular media didn't mention about this, and many aspects are not in our media.
I think in the south of Romania you have a problem with the Turks.
Near the Black Sea and in Bulgaria.
Yeah. Dobruja. I know the history.
Yes, they became more active now, or more.
And I will say one more thing. Erdogan and the Turks are saying we are going to conquer the 18 Greek islands off the coast of Anatolia. In other words, they're going to threaten a war like they do with Cyprus and take the 18 Greek islands. I have news for you. they are going to come back to Bulgaria and Romania and Hungary and Serbia and Greece if they can.
It's a part of their belief, because if one time they have put a feet there...
Of their psychosis. It's a psychosis. Hitler had a psychosis. Stalin had a psychosis. Conquer, conquer, conquer. You know, you're going against the people.
Maybe talking about the end time. Many talking about end time, some refer to earthquake or disease. Some are referred to conflict in the end time, like Gog, Magog, Megiddo. Maybe some mention. Who maybe see already some nations, some alignments of the final conflicts in from the Bible?
Well, you know, in Hebrew, Meshech, many people say Meshech is Moscow, and Tubal is Tbilisi. And I used to have big fights with my dear Christian friends in America because they said that Russia was the Armageddon. Now, if they said Soviet Union, it would be yes. But if they say Russia, it's no. Because the Soviet population was 350 million, Soviet Union, 350 million, but 200 million were Muslim. So the majority of the Soviet Union was Muslim. Now, after the end of communism and Russia broke away, or the other republics broke away, now you have 150 million Russians, and the majority is Russian Orthodox. I don't believe that a Russian Orthodox or any Orthodox country would attack Israel. But the Muslim Turks of the 6 republics and Turkey and other countries that are Muslim, they may want to attack Israel in an Armageddon-type battle. And Erdogan said it. He wants to create an army to destroy Israel.
You see Erdogan being more and more as a leader of the Muslim movement?
He wants to be, yes. But Arabs don't like him. They don't like him because he's not an Arab, he's a Turk. Turks are Indo-European. Turks, Iranians are Indo-European. They're not Arab, they're not Semitic, they're not Arabs.
Talking about Erdogan, maybe a few comments. We in Romania, we have some sensitivity to the totalitarian regimes.
Yes.
And we see in 2-3 years, Erdogan took some steps to become a leader. Maybe make some comments on this.
Well, firstly, Erdogan's rise to power started as mayor of Istanbul. And he did a very good job. He was very popular. And he was not so fanatic at the beginning. What is happening now is every year, every few months, there's something new, another step up the ladder of fanaticism. And also the so-called coup attempt against him with Gulen. This is something which, I mean, I don't know if Gulen was involved or not involved, but you know, Hitler consolidated his power with the burning of the Reichstag in January 34. And all his opponents were killed or sent to the concentration camps, even though Hitler did it. Hitler's people burned down the Reichstag. It wasn't the opposition. He used this. In America, they call this a red flag.
Yes, I have been last year on the Golan Heights. Why do you think this is important? For whom it's important, Golan Heights? Was it dispute territories or not? No, too much economical advantage there. And you know, maybe a strategic or military situation of the Middle East, what are the importance of Golan Heights?
Well, I was an Israeli army spokesman for 14 years, and I used to take many groups up to the Golan Heights and explain this exactly to them. You have to remember that until 1967, the Syrians were actually on the Sea of Galilee. And whoever's on the Sea of Galilee has some control on the Sea of Galilee and threatens anyone else who's on the Sea of Galilee. And theoretically, the Syrian army at that time could have marched on Tiberias, the city of Tiberias, taken in 15 minutes. It's not a big deal. In 1973, in the Yom Kippur War, the Syrians had a breakthrough in the south of the Golan Heights. And they made it to the Sea of Galilee almost. But they stopped because they couldn't believe that they won. And by then, the next day, the Israeli reserves came and sent them back and then moved all the way to Damascus. So one point is the water. The second point is strategic depth. Now, you have to remember, Israel is a very small country. And if the enemy is on the Sea of Galilee, they can take Tiberias in 15 minutes. They can take the city of Safed in half an hour. They can take Nazareth in 45 minutes and Haifa in 1 hour. That's how big the country is. The country is very small. If we are on the Golan Heights, I mean, we don't have any plan to take Damascus, but we're like 30 minutes from Damascus. And now it's much harder for them to hit our cities.
You didn't mention, and many people didn't mention about Armenian Holocaust or massacre. Do you think the Armenian population or like an ethnic group will play a role? Or why people for decades didn't talk about what's happened to Armenian people? It's some significance, spiritual significance, political significance.
You have to remember that Turkey and Iran, in the good old days, when we were talking about Demirel, you know, we're talking about İnönü, you know, after Turk.
After Turk.
You had a secular Turkey. Now, they were Muslim. They were not very happy with Israel, but we had normal relations with them. We had very good relations with Iran under the Shah. And this was important because there was no Arab country that would make peace with us. Today, we have a very strong peace with Egypt. We have a fairly good peace with Jordan. There are other Arab countries that are talking about making peace with us. Even Saudi Arabia is hinting they want to make peace because of their threat of Iran. Okay. When you look at the overall picture, if you need Turkey as an ally, then you don't want to talk about the Armenians. This is inconvenient. And so there are many people in the Israeli government, they don't want to talk about the Armenians, okay? Now I, myself, am forming a Judeo-Christian political party. It's not one of the principles of the party, but one of the first things I'm going to do, if I get elected to the Knesset, is to work for recognition of the Turkish Holocaust of the Armenians, because the Armenians are our brothers. And so this is, again, I'm forming a Judeo-Christian party, and the Turks killed the Christians. So this is something, my position is we have to defend our Christians. And for me, the Armenians are our Christians.
I have a question. Many theologians said about Isaiah 19, about the highway.
Yeah.
Maybe say if you think how you see this highway possible now or in the millennium, or tell us if you think your understanding about what the theologian mentioned, like Isaiah 19 highway.
Okay, now the Isaiah 19 highway is a prophecy that there will be a highway that goes from Egypt through Israel all the way to Assyria. So people can say today that means Iraq or...
Not Syria, Assyria.
Assyria, yeah.
Would be the same thing.
Again, many things written in the Bible apply to new countries which were not around at that time. And many people ask me this question. I believe in the end, yes, there will be a highway when all this is under Israeli control. In other words, what I said to you before, when we reach the Tigris and Euphrates, when we reach the Kurds, and the Kurds for us will be fantastic neighbors. Why not? Of course there'll be a highway. But Isaiah 19 is also very interesting because at the very first verses of Isaiah 19, it says, Egyptian will fight Egyptian, neighbor will fight neighbor, brother will fight brother, and city will fight city. Now, we saw under the Muslim Brotherhood and Mubarak, until Mubarak fell, we saw exactly this. The Egyptians were fighting each other. The brothers were fighting each other. The neighbors were, the cities were fighting each other. Port Said soccer team, football, was fighting the football team of Cairo. It was completely crazy. So it could be that the prophecy of the highway from Egypt cannot happen when you have all these brothers fighting each other. And there's another point. Ezekiel 28:29 talks about a massive catastrophe in Egypt, that Egypt will not exist for 40 years. It does not say the Egyptians will die. It says the Egyptians will be scattered to the four corners of the earth. Every country will have to take in Egyptian people. Something is going to happen that they will not be able to stay in Egypt. Now, I think there is one of two explanations. The Egyptians are Sunni, and the Egyptians were threatening Bashar al-Assad, who is Shiite, just like the Turks. And the Iranians said to the Egyptians, if you go invade or send troops against Bashar al-Assad, we will send our missiles and blow up the Aswan Dam. Now, the Aswan Dam is not mentioned in Ezekiel 28, but it does say Asain or Aswan. Now, if the dam is blown up by a missile or an earthquake, and a little earthquake can cause the dam to burst, all that water will flow through the Nile Valley and will destroy Egypt for 40 years. And the Egyptians will have to go to other countries. All they have to do is run 1 or 2 kilometers in either direction up the hill away from the river. But it will not be possible to feed them every day. You'll have to take them out and bring them to America. America's going to have to take 50 million Egyptian Muslims and Coptic. I mean, I pray this does not happen. I'm just saying this is what God says in Ezekiel 28:29. God says in Isaiah 19:11 that 19:1 and 2 that Egyptians will fight each other.
A few comments on Aliyah.
Yes.
Because people said it was a time of fishermen, now it's hunting time, and in a way or another way.
Fishers and then the hunters.
Yes. How you see this process now and this momentum, because this happened in many decades before, step by step?
This is a very crucial point for understanding my political party. In the summer of 1999, I was in Canada, in a place called Edmonton. And I was in churches, and I was in a synagogue. And in the synagogue, there was a Christian lady who told me and told everyone that she was coming to the synagogue because Jesus went to synagogue on the Sabbath. So she wanted to see Jesus the Jew. And it says in the New Testament that Jesus read from the law, read from the prophets, and then he gave a sermon. This is exactly how we do it today in the synagogue. So she wants to understand the Jewish roots of Jesus. And so she told the story. She is a social worker for the government of Canada, city of Edmonton. And she said that she was working as a social worker for an Egyptian Muslim woman doctor who was in hiding. She had asylum in Edmonton. The jihadi people wanted to kill her because they said to her, you are going to be in Canada, you're going to collect for us all the names and addresses and telephone numbers of all the Jews and their Christian spouses, and we are going to kill all of them. And she said, I'm a doctor. I'm here to heal people and save lives. I'm not here to kill people, even the Jews. She was a Muslim, a good Muslim woman, but she wasn't a murderer. She was a doctor. So they said to her, you don't want to work for us? She said no. So standing next to her was another woman helping her in the clinic. They took a knife and they cut her throat. And they said to the doctor, if you don't work with us, this is what is going to happen to you. This is before ISIS, before Daesh. This is 1999. And she said also that the Canadian police told her that 90% of the Muslims are peacekeeping people, 10% are terrorists. Now, if you have 30 million in the United States, this is what I have discovered, 30 million Muslim in the United States, and only 10% are terrorists, how much is that? 3 million. The Jews are 6 million, and Christian spouses, 4 million, so it's 10 million. 3 million Muslims with AK-47 Kalashnikov, and the Jews don't want to have guns. The Jews are in favor of gun control in America. The Muslims are not in favor of gun control. The Muslims have the guns. This is a Holocaust waiting to happen. And I believe that the survivors, the Jewish and Christian survivors, will be fleeing to Israel. And my party will be the biggest political party in the Knesset because my party will represent the 10 million immigrants.
Tell us a few things about your party, because is the need for a new party? Maybe at the beginning, some introduction about the political structure in Israel, because people didn't know too much. Few ideas, few names.
Yes, well, the Israeli political system is very much like the European system. We have something called proportional representation. In other words, we have like 35 political parties, and each one is looking for the votes of their sector. Okay? My sector will be the Christians and Jewish people who are with the Christians and Jewish people who have lived in Christian countries and understand that especially the Western Christian system is the best. It doesn't have to be America. It could be Canada, America, England, Holland, Germany. I mean, these are the most prosperous countries. These are the countries everyone wants to go to. I want to bring this here to Israel. Now, the Christians in Israel have no representation in our Knesset. The Muslims, who are our enemy, they are sworn to kill us. Their religion forces them to kill us. The Christians are married to us. They serve in the army. They pay taxes. They vote. And there's not even one in the Knesset. So they are 8% of the population. 2% of the population is Arabic speaking, 6% Russian Ukrainian. That's 8%. And also now we have some Ethiopian Christian who came. But I think it's going to go from 8% to 20 or 30%. When you have 10 million Jews and Christians coming from the West, the percentage of Christians will be 30%. So my party will be the biggest party.
You have faith on this, yeah?
I have no doubt, if I'm still alive.
Okay. Maybe some comments on the recent tension which is raising up in the Gaza area. Not too much news in Romania about this. Maybe from time to time we heard about tunnels, but not this kind of reaction. What is the roots of this reaction in Gaza now?
Well, if you remember, before Israel handed over Sinai to Egypt in 1979, 1981, we had Jewish settlements in Sinai. And Anwar Sadat said, you have to give all the land. We gave all the land to the last millimeter. The peace with Egypt was not so good originally, but now the peace is getting stronger and stronger, especially between the Egyptian military and the Israeli military, and also the governments. We are even beginning to see more Coptic Christians coming to Israel to their churches on pilgrimage, which is very good. Now, we had Jewish settlements in Gaza. And Ariel Sharon, it wasn't negotiated, Ariel Sharon said, these Arabs, these Palestinians are digging tunnels underneath our military positions and underneath our settlements. One day, I don't know if you remember, there was a guard post with 6 soldiers, Israeli soldiers, and the Hamas dug a tunnel underneath and then they blew it up and they killed the 6 soldiers. This is sandy ground, it's sand. And so they can dig tunnels anywhere they want. And so Ariel Sharon came to the conclusion, we cannot defend our settlements and our military positions. Let's get out of Gaza. So we got out of Gaza, we gave them Gaza, said it's all yours. Now they're digging tunnels into Israel to attack our settlements. And they have tunnels that go for kilometers long.
A few comments on the funds for Muslims, because there are different way that they get funds. The economy in different regions that in Gaza, for example, or in West Bank or in other places is not booming. How about the funds? How came the funds? From where?
There is a country called Qatar. And Qatar now is a rival with Saudi Arabia to show that it is the true leader of the Arab world. And so they're giving Gaza money, also Iran giving Gaza money. The Europeans are giving Gaza money. President Trump stopped the money to UNRWA because the UNRWA schools are teaching to kill the Jews and to destroy Israel. So the Europeans came and gave the money instead of the Americans.
I'm not so happy that money from my pocket came.
European Union, yes.
Okay.
By the way, the Christians in Gaza are also disappearing. They're a very small amount, maybe 2,000, but they are leaving because it's impossible to live there. Instead of giving water, electricity, and food to their people, they're digging tunnels. It's like they want to commit suicide. I'm telling you, this is not a religion. This is a criminal psychosis.
Maybe something at the end, like a challenge for our viewers. How do you see the country in Eastern Europe related to Israel? Probably one of the issues is that moving the embassy, or praying for Israel, or having economic relations with Israel, or not to be against Israel, or protecting the Jewish who are still in the country, or encouraging Aliyah. How you see maybe these few countries in Eastern Europe, including Romania, in relation with Israel?
Well, yes, indeed. I think we can say that the East European countries are the most understanding of Israel, because the East European countries know the terrors of dictatorship, and now Eastern Europe is free. Also, many Jewish people in Israel came from Eastern Europe, including my family, because my father's family was from the Ukraine and my mother's family was from Poland. I think Czech Republic is working to transfer their embassy to Jerusalem. Interesting point, which is a different subject. There are 3 countries that I know of that have banned Islam. There is no Islam. Japan. Okay, can you say Japan is a bad country or Japan is a crazy country? Japan has banned Islam. They said, this is a crazy system. We don't need it here. Czech Republic in Europe and Angola in Africa. Islam is not tolerated. Now in China, officially, there is Islam, but the Chinese are very tough with the Muslims. They're tough with the Christians too, but they're tough with the Muslims.
Yes, because I want to give some hope, some understanding to Romanians. Because the churches, they until now they was watching only to the theological aspects. They don't put too much attention to understand the times, and maybe you can give some challenges for Romanian church leaders and politicians. How to look. At least some people are watching to Jerusalem. Better for Jerusalem. This is the clock of the world, but the situation is more complex than the battle for Jerusalem. You explain that?
Allah is not God. Because Allah wants to kill everyone. The Jew, the Christian, the Hindu, the Buddhist, the blacks, and the Muslims kill each other in the name of Allah. Christians understand. You have God, you have Satan. And if these people in Romania are Christian, they know that God wins and Satan loses. It's very simple. And so the best thing for a good life, the best thing for a happy life, is to believe in God and to understand that God has the victory over Satan. There's a little, with your permission, I told you about my son. My son has done very, very good DVDs about Shiloh, Bethel, and Gilgal. These are places mentioned in the Bible. And many atheists who don't believe in God say, all these stories are fairy tales. But what has happened is that archaeologists now have proven that these places really exist. If the places exist, then the Bible is the truth. And this is something very important for Romanians, especially to come to Israel and to see for themselves and bring their Bible. And we have guides, who speak in Romanian and in many languages. And we will show you what's written in the Bible is the truth. God's word is the truth. And if you believe in God's word, you will be blessed and have a happy life and have hope.
What is your motivation to be with the Bible in your hand and with the eyes to the magazine, newspaper, the news? What's your motivation to defend Israel and to promote ideas on the favor of Israel?
Firstly, I think I told you that I was an Israeli army spokesman for 14 years. And also I was from 1988 to 2002. I was also senior editor and translator in the Prime Minister's office under Yitzhak Shamir, and I translated from the Islamic press. My wife worked, because she's Egyptian, speaks Arabic, as a monitor. She was listening and watching the Arabic broadcasts. And you hear and you hear and you hear and you see all these crazy things that the Muslims are doing. And then you come to the Christians, and the Christians, forgive me for saying it, are like little sweet babies. Christians cannot understand the evil of Islam. They can't understand why the Muslims do these crazy things. And you know what? Satan first kills the people who go for him and work with him. Hitler killed 20 million Germans. Anyone who followed Hitler was killed, in the Second War. People who followed Stalin, the Russians and the Ukrainians lost 30, 40 million people. All of this is Satan. And so my position is very simple. I believe God is saying to me, go and preach. Go and preach. And I'm a Jew. But the Jews and Christians are one people. We're the people of the book. And our only difference is Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, maybe a comment. You say Islam system, it's a demonic system.
Yes.
It's some kind of comparison between this kind of system and the communist system. Do you see some similarities?
I believe all human beings are good. Because the flesh, the blood, is from God. The problem is the man-made system. So, you have Nazism. Germans are good people, but Nazis are not. Russians, Chinese, Cambodian, good people, but communism is not. And you saw what happened in Cambodia. Why did Pol Pot kill 2 million Cambodians? Why? His own people. Mao Zedong, nobody knows how many people died. Stalin is 30, 40, 50 million. And it was the Soviet Union was a prison, one big prison. I did studies on the gulags, so I know this. But Russians are great people. Romanian are great people. Japanese are great people. The Japanese, they had Tojo. Tojo was a fascist dictator, and he destroyed Japan. So today Japan is democratic, and it's one of America's best friends. Germany is one of America's best friends. What did Jesus say? Do you hate the enemy? No, love the enemy. So after World War II, with the Marshall Plan, love the enemy. Rebuild all the enemy's destroyed cities and factories. Now they're allies. I love the Muslims. I don't hate the Muslims. I cry for the Muslims because I see what they do to each other. Why should they be killing their children? You see what's happening in Ghouta and in Aleppo and all these. Terrible. Use of poison and chemicals. What kind of a God would allow to use these things?
In Europe, we are facing with immigrants, and there are two positions: to love them, to embrace them, to use the chance to share the gospel with them, or to be very cautious, or to have reserve to consider them as the terrorist. These are two approach in Europe. What do you said about this? Even in Romania, there are these two kind of perspectives.
We have it now in Israel, with the 35 or 40,000 infiltrators who came from Africa. Should we embrace them and give them asylum, or should we expel them? We have the same debate here also. Remember what I said before about Canada, where the Canadian police were saying that 90% of these people, of the Muslims, are peacekeeping, law-abiding citizens. Only 10% are terrorists. Now, I think that leaders like Angela Merkel think, well, we can manage, if it's only 10%, the police will take care of that, and 90% will help build the German industry, the German economy. So I think that there are people who are saying, forget about God, the only thing that interests us is the economy. And they could be raping the women, and they could be killing, and there's a city in Malmö in Sweden where the rapes and the murders are higher than ever before in the history of Sweden. So if the leadership is ready to pay the price, they bring in these people, but it's not good for the Christians. And my personal view, I was supposed to go to the Vatican, and I had a heart attack. So my son went. And we met with top Vatican officials. And my message is to the Vatican, we need a crusade, like 1,000 years ago. Because the crusade was an answer to an Islamic invasion of Europe 1,000 years ago. And now we're having an Islamic invasion again, thinking this time the result will be better.
This is really with the final question. We are involved in media, so we are preoccupied and looking for credible information, news and approach. But there's a lot of fake news. You mentioned a few minutes ago about your wife who understands different TV or radio in Arab or what. How do you see will be the place of the media in the future, and how? First of all, we don't know who finance the station like Al Jazeera or other stations we form. Make some comments on how you see the importance of media in the future. Already through media, through internet, a lot of manipulation are done.
Well, I think indeed you are seeing the growth of the internet. Even the internet is now being controlled. And for example, I don't remember saying anything bad on Twitter. I don't get any more Twitter connections. I still have Facebook, I still have LinkedIn, but Twitter stopped. And I saw yesterday in the internet that there are professional people in Twitter who are looking to get rid of what they call the shitty people. The shitty people mean the people who are like dirt, meaning the conservatives, the Christians, the people who oppose their liberal agenda. So we have a problem in the future with the media, and we have a problem in the future even with the internet.
A fost un interviu special realizat cu Avi Lipkin, un om de o revelație deosebită a vremurilor din urmă. Este un om care are multă înțelegere și înțelepciune și scriptural și duhovnicească, dar și oarecum înțelege și politica lumii acesteia prin perspectiva Scripturii. E un om care are un dar al revelației deosebit și ne bucurăm că a fost împreună cu noi la această emisiune Israel, oameni și fapte. Deci iată, oameni deosebiți, oameni obișnuiți din Israelul zilelor noastre. Dumnezeu să vă binecuvinteze până la o nouă ediție a emisiunii Israel, oameni și fapte.
Alfa,